We can get started. Thank you all for coming. Just talking a little bit about planning for legislative meetings, how to stay organized. Thank you, Savannah, for being here and for the inspiration behind this to begin with. Savannah presented at our Cal Capo conference in November alongside Victor from Contra Costa on an Advocacy 101 presentation. And Savannah used CapK's example of an advocacy binder to show how they stay organized for all their advocacy visits. So she graciously allowed me to use those great ideas to turn into templates for the network to use so that we can all be prepared and better organized when we go into our legislative meetings. And I know these are ones that I'm preparing for our meetings, so hopefully it'll be helpful for you all as well. So we'll just go ahead and get into it. What to bring. So this is what we're talking about today are those binders like I discussed, which will have schedules, talking points, and program information. These templates I made one for NCAF and one for Cal Kappa Advocacy Day, but really they can be used if you're going to NUAC Advocacy Day or LIHEAP Action Day, or if you have legislators coming to visit for a CapK Advocacy Day or something like that. They can be really customized to fit whatever need that you have for these legislative visits. After I talk about the binders, I'm going to talk about some things to leave behind, which I hope Lorenzo might be able to talk a little bit more about what those offices like to see, what's left behind, and I'll talk a little bit about what we've done in the past and some other things. So we'll get into the binder. Um, like I said, thank you, Savannah, for this. So we've created these templates for you to use in a multitude of ways. So we created Canva templates. So if you do have Canva, I think it's a pro account that you can use Canva templates. We have them on Canva. Lawrence also was able to create Adobe versions so that you can use them in Adobe if you want to do fillable. And then we also created a really easy Word doc version. So if you don't like all the visuals and all of the prettiness of it, that's okay. There's a sort of stripped down version that I'll show you as well. So really briefly before we get into the content, I wanted to show you what these looked like. So when you open this link, it'll take you directly to the Canva template. And so that opens like this. As you can see, most of it you can't really move and touch. This part you can remove, so you'd insert your logo, and same thing here. You can edit that agency name. Like I said, a lot of this you can't really move. It's stuck there because those are the parts that aren't meant to be moved around. You have like the conference agenda, conference locations here, map of Capitol Hill, all of our social media. So if you want to post on social media, and then we finally get into some of the things that you would be editing. So like this one's really editable here. And things editable here. Some of these pages that say insert are more meant to be blank pages left for when we do have the information for you to insert. So those are just sort of filler pages. I'll show you again how you might be able to use it just in a PDF. I didn't download this fully to Acrobat, but you can and just add all the same information that you would add there. And then the stripped down version for if you don't want to deal with all of that. All the information you need just in a Word doc, or maybe you want to turn this into your own pretty version. So all of that information is still right here. These are the three NCAF ones that I've shown you. So these, for example, map of Capitol Hill is specific to NCAFs. Cal Kappas would have, Cal Kappas map for Advocacy Day there, and same with the agenda. Cal Kappas has the Cal Kappa Advocacy Day agenda. So they're really customizable to those two different things, but just keeping you organized. So for example, I put one together here, and of course I probably need to unblur my background so you can see it better. But kind of all put together, this is what it looks like, just so you have one sort of portfolio going into Advocacy Day and Cap Flying Week with all that information that you need. We will provide some of these on Advocacy Day. If you don't put one together yourself, we'll have some for you to grab from us, but it's always better to be prepared. So hoping to help you guys do that. To get back to the presentation and just show you about what we want you to fill in these sections. Um, like I said, most of the binder, I went ahead and put together all the information that you need, a lot of it coming from Savannah's binder from last year. But there are those spaces that we encourage you to make custom for yourself, that being the visit schedule, your local talking points and priorities, and other program collateral. And I'll talk more about what other program collateral is in a second. So first visit schedule, we really encourage you just to have one page to have for anyone who might be coming to these visits. So if your whole board's coming with you, make sure your whole board has a copy of this. But providing a copy of this schedule to everyone, maybe leave some blank sections in case meetings come up and get changed the day of. I know Savannah can attest to things change all the time on this form. So really making sure that you have copies for everyone, but everyone knows that things can change at any time. It's kind of a living document right up until you walk into the meeting. So these are the sections that you'd want to fill in times for, and something that's worked for us after you gather all this information is to create a Google Calendar specifically for meetings. So for example, this is one I did for NCAF last year, and I put all of the meetings from every agency that we had on this schedule. And the ones that David was going to, I went ahead and invited him to them so that he had them on his calendar as well. So that was one way that we organized it. But this one is the way that you can have it all in this really nice binder to carry around with you everywhere. So there's that. Savannah, do you have any tips, tricks about this page that you want to add? Okay.
I think just reiterating with you, Jillian, that this is going to change up until the date of the of you walking in. So printing it out, but also what I do when we're on visits is I would be screenshotting this and making edits to the Canva page from my app, and then just sending out a text. So I'll create a group text of all the individuals that are coming, and then just saying, hey, updated schedule, change it on your calendar. Here's also the updated thing. And it's always changing, but getting it as clean as possible up to it. But again, just letting everybody who's attending know that it could be changing.
Yes. Thank you. So that is kind of it for scheduling and preparing your schedule. Now I wanted to get into local talking points. And like I said, there's this version, which is kind of pretty in Canva, but there's also a stripped down version that has just the information you need. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the one that I put together. Actually, I don't remember where that is. Give me one second. Didn't pull this one up. Okay, you guys might have to see all of my docs, but that's okay for a second. I think it's this one. Okay, yes. So for example, this is what I would, give to David if he was going into a meeting with Senator Padilla. So normally you'd have district map. Senator Padilla covers the whole state of California, so he has the whole state here. I usually include a picture of the legislator just in case, you happen to stroll past them in the hall and not realize it or something. I was included, but you don't have to if you don't want it open and you're meeting with them and it's a picture of their face right there. I understand. I also include recent member activities. So anything that we recently engaged with the member on. So for example, Senator Padilla, the Senate approved the budget for CSBG just recently at 775 million. He signed the Senate Dear Colleague letter in 2025. And last year at NCAF, we met with Adrienne Epstein, who's his policy advisor in the sort of work that we do during NCAF Flying Week. And she just mentioned how much support that the office has for our programs and just interest in our programs in general. So that's kind of what I have in mind for how we recently interacted with his office. And then you get into this member focus areas, the programs within his district that you operate. Again, this is just an example that I use based on, how David would go about a meeting with Senator Padilla. So for us, we use a lot of statewide data and a lot of statewide talking points, whereas you'd use a little bit more localized talking points. We use, like I said, some of these agency numbers. Maybe yours would be more program specific and more outcome specific. And then finally getting into topics to discuss. And this kind of comes from members' interests, from our interests, our priorities, all of the things, and kind of coming into one. So before I get into all of this, I just wanted to talk about how we find all of this information, because it sounds like I'm a stalker for Senator Padilla after going through all of that, which I kind of was in the last week. So that's kind of how you have to be. Just like you would read someone's your resume before you interview them, or you'd check someone's LinkedIn out before you talk to them. Kind of do the same thing with legislators. So for me, I always check their website first. Right under About Alex, there's a little tab that says issues, and almost every single legislator has this on their website. And when you pull up their issues, it pulls up a big page of all the things that they say that they care about the most. And so, of course, we go through this whole list and we see where our interests align with their interests. Um, Another good place to look specifically for federal legislators is congress.gov. You can see, their sponsored legislation and some of their votes in the past. You check their social media. There are so many other tools. I don't know if Savannah or Lorenzo, you have any other specific tools that you use to try and, I guess, stalk or learn more about legislators you're meeting with. But yeah, these are the ones we use. So, oh, Lorenzo, did you want to add?
Yeah. Um, Definitely bring up talking them in. That'll be great.
Your
Cap
mic is
OC.
a little,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
no worries.
No, bring up stalking them in their meetings. That's a good way for you to get to know the Capitol Police. They'll probably show up to your house and stuff. No, I'm totally. One of the good things I like to do was just go to their recent press releases, because that's normally some of the things that they have recently kind of done. So anything, I like to go to their press releases, just kind of skim and see if there's anything related to any of our lines of business. For us, we're a little bit, we do energy, we do some food bank as well. So just anything there, and just kind of like bring it up, be like, hey, notice like so and so. But yeah, no, they're issue areas, and then press releases, I think, is just pretty much um, kind of just everything that's recent with them. So
Cool. Yeah, thank you for adding that. Um, and yeah, really, like I said, social media. Maybe you met with the legislator, and you remember what he said. I know David met, for example, with Congressman Obernolte last year, and they talked, I think, about like racing or something like that. And so now that's something that they can bring up. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I know, a specific policy interest, but David Bradley often talks about how he talks about baseball with members. So, whatever that may be, just finding common ground there. And so, like I said, for example, you can turn it into this big, beautiful sheet, and have everything you need just on a one pager for that meeting. So, like I said, those focused areas came literally almost every word in this came directly from Senator Padilla's website. Um, this is just, like I said, the programs that you have within the district. This is data you already have. This is really the only thing that you're having to kind of come up with new ideas for. And it really is all here in just how you're going to talk to the legislator about it. So, for example, we have some of the talking points that NCAF included last year. So, since we don't have new talking points from NCAF at this point, we're kind of running with the ones last year. So we have some of those there to talk about CSBG in general, talking about our community action network in general, some specific programs we wanted to highlight. Looks like Senator Padilla cares about veterans and military families. So we wanted to talk about CAPK's veteran services and the new housing that they have in Kern. Some CalAIM programs. We think those are really innovative new programs that we'd love to talk to Senator Padilla about. He's really interested in healthcare and general affordability. So things like that. It's not necessarily your favorite thing to talk about, but what would the senator's favorite thing to talk about be, that you can talk to him about? And then finally, like I said, we're going to talk to him about some of the challenges that we had. Depending on if you're a public or private, there are some lines that you can or can't cross, depending on the specific asks that you're going to make. General asks that you can always make is just maintaining that our network is a trusted partner for the government, and that we are here for whatever those needs, the needs of their constituent, the needs of their offices, sort of anything. So those are always the general asks that we have. if you are able to make more lobbying asks, maybe there are specific bills this cycle that we'll be supporting. Those will all be to come. We don't have anything specific there now, but this is something that you can do for any congressman, any state senator, state assembly member, even, county supervisors. Even if you're trying to meet, trying to engage new board members, maybe this is something that you do to, find out how do we engage with new board members. So, yeah, just in general, I think that this could be a great way to organize all your thoughts. It's how I'm organizing all my thoughts. So I wanted to share that forward. Now I wanted to get into what I mean by other program collateral. So this will kind of differ depending on if you're talking to federal legislators or if you're talking to state legislators. For example, for like maybe you run some energy programs. So for the federal legislators, you'd probably include those new act talking points. For if you're talking to state legislators, maybe you're including LIHEAP Helps California, or you're including access talking points. For example, I have the Cal Kappa Advocacy Day binder one, and I included in our collateral some state policy agenda from the California Association of Food Banks. And then also, Lawrence recently attended the CBO CalAIM Coalition, Medi-Cal Coalition. And so these are some great talking points about those CalAIM programs that I mentioned earlier. So maybe if you run CalAIM programs, you want to make sure you have one of these in your binder. So it really is just dependent upon the programs that you run, the programs that you plan to talk to legislators about, and what you might need to refer to for some quick information. Savannah, do you have anything to add here about how you use your program collateral?
Yeah, so what I typically do with this content is I just bulk everything up for staff in case they need it. Because sometimes when you're in meetings, they're going to ask you something that a new NUAC may have data or information on, which I always use their one sheeter in our state documentation or in our federal. Just you never know. It's going to make your binder really, really thick, but I think it's always better to have that information in case you need it. And what I do is I usually go to these pages. So I go to NUOCS or I go to CAFB's, California Association of Food Banks, and they have their advocacy websites with one sheets on there. So I just pull that stuff down, print it off, and throw it into the binder itself. So it's just giving you everything you could possibly need. Sometimes it's overkill, but it's better to have it than not have it, right? So kind of just stalking other associations, the National Head Start Association, any of those other ones that are existing. So just search in the web.
Yes, a lot of research, a lot of finding out what other people care about. Yeah. All right, well, I'll move on from this. So that was everything to do with binders. Actually, before I move on, are there any questions related to binders that I or Savannah, who is the creator of the binder, can answer? Hi,
Okay.
Seth.
Yeah, I have a question. Sorry, I was late because I was running from another meeting. The binders, can you just go over like the first minute? Is this a binder that you guys at Cal Cap have created? The expectations we create a
Yeah.
binder, or is that binder living somewhere that we could replicate?
Yes, so kind of all of the above. Well, not the
Okay.
expectation part. If you don't want to do this, you can throw it out the window, but
Mhm.
we'd love for you to do this. So really quickly to show you those the ways that you can engage with it, we've created templates for you to use. So you can use either Canva if you have Canva Pro account. There's a template here in Canva that you can use. If you don't, you can use Adobe and just use the fillable PDFs, and the sections that require filling in will all have fillable sort of areas to fill in. If you don't like the look of it or you want something more simple, we also have it just in a plain doc form for you to use. So
And is
um,
this living on the Cal Kappa app?
it eventually will
Okay.
be, Lawrence, to yes. In the meantime, these will all be sent to you all via
Oh,
email
okay.
as well.
All right. Perfect. Thank
So
you.
however you want to engage with it, if you want to engage with it, we wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to be able to use this information. And like I said, a lot of it we provided for you, but there are some spots that you need to make it a little bit more locally focused and about what your priorities are as well. So yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
of course. Well, I will go ahead and get into the next portion, which is on what we would leave behind, what we want to bring printed out so that we can give it to the legislator, we can give it to their staff members about our programs, about our agencies. These are examples of what we've done in the past. We have agency one-pagers and data sheets that show, basic number of clients served, outcomes achieved, services provided, things like that, just to give some basic numbers. Maybe if that legislator is on a specific committee, maybe he's on like an energy committee or something like that, and you want to give him energy focused things, you do that. Maybe if this person really cares about early childhood, you give them a Head Start one pager from your agency. So those are things that you might want to think about developing before those meetings with legislators. There are also things that we can help you develop before meetings with legislators. Some things that you might already have that a legislator might be interested in is your annual reports, your community needs assessments, and your community action plan. Those three things I think should, if you're doing them right, explain everything that's going on in your agency in regards to community action. Um, and then materials that you can ask us to help you with is statewide data and district-wide data. So I wanted to get into some of those one pagers that we've developed in the past. This is one that we've done for Kern County. I guess these are kind of two pagers. It's one page front and back, but mostly using just the language from NCAF describing what community action is. All of these data points I get from your annual report submissions. So if numbers seem off or seem funky, it might be because you report, your agency numbers differently than you report in the annual report or something. And we can talk about that. But this is one way that we have to sort of just show basic impact of our programs and specifically in things that the legislators might be interested in. So for example, this one was for Congressman Obernolte in Kern. So we wanted to make sure that specifically there was utility payments in here. We wanted to talk about the importance of leveraged funding. And the language that we use is really about, sustained success in the middle class and long-term self-sufficiency and some of those more words that work with our Republican legislators. So there's that information, and then there's also the information for some other CAAs reaching out. So if they wanted to reach out to other CAAs in their district, I kind of have done these in a few different ways. I've done these specifically using data from Kern County. I've done sheets where I've tried to include data from all of these different agencies into one big sheet to show a sort of district impact. And then I've done ones that are just the county that could be given to every single legislator that they meet with. It's not necessarily legislator specific. So we can make these really customizable. If you are interested in making them yourself, that's totally, I don't claim to have control over our one pagers. So if you want to make one, that's okay. But I'm here and happy to help create these as well, if that's something that you would be interested in, me taking off your plate for you. Yeah, so those were kind of, like I said, the things that you might want to think about developing in ahead of meetings with legislators. Lorenzo, I don't know if you have any other specifics about what we should be leaving behind with legislators in their offices.
No, I think all that's great. Anything, that you have for, like, for example, we created just like one pager of all of the things that were important to CAPOC. So again, we have an energy and food bank lines of business. So just like a quick, like, hey, SNAP's important to us, LIHEAP and things like that. So I think just having those programs kind of nice, big and bolded. So when the staffers take a look, they're like, oh, okay, I remember, SNAP or food bank, whatever related items. That's pretty helpful, I think, for them um, just to kind of highlight what we're advocating for. And then those other one pagers too, with all the statistics are great. Those are really nice and visually pleasing.
Thank you. Yeah. Savannah, do you have any other tips or tricks or things that you like to leave behind and bring?
Yeah, sometimes what we do is we'll do like it depends on the elected. You have to read the room and what party they belong to. Some prefer data, some prefer stories. So we do a mix with sometimes we'll bring like a story sheet or something with a QR code to one of our videos on our YouTube. So they can watch it later on or something to that capacity. But we do those and of course all the other stuff that you mentioned, our one sheets and our annual report. And typically they've had that stuff, but we just give them anything updated. So stories are great, and videos have worked out for us as well.
Yeah. You guys do a great job at those videos. Maybe we should put together a webinar for putting together videos.
Yeah, great staff.
Okay, cool. Are there any questions that any of you have about what to leave behind? Any questions about how to put any of this together? These that I've showed aren't necessarily great examples in the sense that there's no pockets. Maybe when you are putting together your own binder, you have one with lots of pockets to carry around all of this information with you. But yeah, any questions?
What I do, Jillian, just for a heads up for all this leave behinds, is we have an agency like folder that we designed, and we just prep the folders ready to go with all of the information, carry the bag with us, and we're like, hey, here's 2 for this office, 3 for that office, and they're already prepped. We're not having to sit, build the leave behinds. It's all in a folder, and we just pass them out as we're going. So that's helpful too. But somebody has to carry it, so
Yeah, no,
only
that's great. And especially then if you get, other data, whether that's our statewide brochures that we have or anything from NCAF that you want to add to those folders as well, that's really easy to just slip those in.
exactly.
All right, well, I'll move on to the next slide. We're nearing the end, so I keep going through these so quickly, which I guess is good for all of our time's sake. But I wanted to talk about, again, following up after these meetings. I mentioned this briefly during our meeting last week, but just about the importance of following up. I know that I sometimes also struggle with this, so also reiterating it to myself. You can't just leave the meeting and expect to see them again next year. So the day of the meeting, make sure you try to assign one person to follow up. At least for us, that's worked out in the past. We don't want both David and I following up. It's kind of too many emails in the inbox. And make sure that they have the business card of whoever they're meeting with. Last year I walked out of Senator Padilla's office with I think 5 different business cards. So making sure that you have those. And letting the person know that you'll be the person that's going to follow up. When you come out of these meetings, maybe they ask for a specific data point or they ask for a specific story that you didn't have on hand. So make sure that you have that in your follow-up email. That probably, if you can get it that day, that would be great to have it that day. But really the day of, just thanking the person for the meeting, and then maybe the week later, checking back in with those other resources. But again, thanking the person, thanking them for their time, thanking them for their service. If you met with the legislator, make sure in that meeting you thank them for their service. And then like I said, that week after is when you can follow up with any other conversations, loop in anyone else that might need to be looped into conversations. Maybe you invited them to your agency, you invited the legislator to your agency. So touch base on, potential future collaborations, and things like that. So I don't know, Lorenzo or Savannah, if you have any other best tips for following up or any ideas here, but those are our best tips. And yeah, if you have any other questions or concerns or you don't know where to start with legislators, let me know. That does bring us to the end of this presentation. So if you don't have any questions, I'll let you all go. I'm also happy one-on-one if anyone needs help building these binders, building these one-pagers. Happy to meet with anyone to talk more about that. If you have questions with not only the binders, but if you have a specific legislator that you need help with research on, or you're not sure how to align your priorities with their priorities, let us know and we're happy to discuss any potential strategy there as well. But yeah, any questions? Awesome. Well, I'll let you all go and have 30 minutes back of your day. All of this will come to you in an email, as well as it'll eventually be on the CalCAPA Connect app as well. Like I said, the templates, if you have any questions or you're having trouble using them, please let me know. Yeah, I hope this was all helpful, and maybe you all be on the training next week, which is telling your agency story. Yeah, otherwise I'll let you all go and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.